So, good morning and very warm welcome to everybody. So, hope that this time together can be of benefit to you in your life, in your Dharma practice, however you understand that. Or, yeah, it's an exploration and maybe always an open question how to live well. How do we live well? Maybe sometimes questions are more helpful than piling up the dictates and the shoulds and that. So I'm aware that this will be my last daily Dharma offering for a while. I will be on sabbatical for 6 months. And so for those of you following along, I wanted to just acknowledge this. I mentioned it on Monday as well. And Jazz will be continuing, and we hope with some of the teachers as well. So I thought this morning I would, partly because of sort of my transition, I would offer some reflections on what at the end of a retreat, which some of you will be very familiar with, you get this talk on practice in daily life, which used to involve perhaps getting up off the cushion here at IMS and driving or getting a bus or a train to somewhere, and now may involve simply opening your eyes. There you are. And so just a few thoughts on what's helpful for me, hopefully for you, but also to really encourage you to listen if that's a question that's of interest, what helps us, what steadies us, what helps to clarify where we are with what's going on within and around us. Like, this is a very, again, it can be a really helpful thing to hold as an inquiry. So I encourage you to sit and listen in that spacious and also grounded, embodied way, where it may be that responses or thoughts or a sense of what for you is a response to that question. What really helps you, what supports you in your life? So as I offer some suggestions, you can sort of feel around those. Well, it's not that for me, or maybe that one, or just something else that bubbles up as you're listening. So I really encourage you to listen. I feel it's such a helpful way of listening to Dharma teachings, where we really pause, really pause from activity, put everything aside for a little while. And even if it's listening to a Dharma teaching, we're listening in that way where the mindfulness, the awareness is wide and has breadth and depth and allows us to kind of listen inwardly to the heart, wise heart sort of responses and offerings. So alongside this really crucial sort of practice of pausing and sitting or standing or lying down or doing walking meditation, this sort of formal practice of really drawing a boundary for a little while, giving ourselves that space, that contemplative time. And I recommend not always doing that with someone's voice on a recording, going on in your head. Do it without as well, I would suggest. It's both helpful. Yeah. So other modes or activities or attitudes, for some of us, it's sometimes having a reflective theme, something that we discern and kind of find for ourselves that feels really interesting, really, important, relevant. We really want to hang out with that theme. Might be a Dharma theme, might be something else. Something like patience, for example, one of the paramis, one of the great qualities of heart. And just to hold it as a kind of reflection in different ways, carrying it through our day, for a week or a month or something. I think it has a similar effect like a meditative anchor. So you're like, all over the place and forgotten, whatever. And then you come back, like when you're sitting, you come back to the body or the breathing or loving kindness, wish, something like that. And then this sort of anchoring theme can have a similar effect, sort of wherever we are, inwardly, outwardly. It's like, patience, and it's like it begins to infuse into your life. And again, not as a demand, but more as an inquiry, like, well, what does that look or feel like here with exactly what's happening? So it's a practice I often recommend. I also really see the benefit for many, many people of some kind of a body practice like exercise or a kind of contemplative or movement, dance, qigong, tai chi, yoga, something that really is about moving the body. Also walking can be where that mode of presence and kind of connecting with the body, and through that with the earth. I think this is, again, just to see what works for you, but really important, really helpful in so many ways. And then that kind of segues into being outside, spending bits of time outside. Maybe you have trees, sky, even if maybe you're inside, indoors, maybe sick, maybe confined for some reason. Is there a window you can see the sky? Maybe see a tree or hear a bird. Or if that's not available either, sense of remembering, imagining times with trees, by water, on a mountain can be nourishing as well. Yeah, so even short periods like 5 minutes or something. Or I've been just popping outside quite frequently for short times. So it feels like the perspective changes. It helps the sense of wider, bigger picture of our life on the planet, and feels particularly important in a time of climate crisis where our connection with and care for the earth is even more needed than it ever has been, both for our own benefit, but also in terms of then how we can respond and bring some care and attention to that predicament. So spiritual friendship, community, maybe through this kind of gathering, retreats, little offerings like this, maybe a friend that you connect with, or some way in which we feel support, feel that kind of some sense of shared intention. Perhaps it's never 100% because yeah, but just like something shared. And I was having a conversation with a student recently and was really struck by how the conversation, and there was a question and sort of concern, and we talked and saying different things, and then somehow not sure, and then something really clear and helpful kind of emerged out of the end of that. So sometimes like that, isn't it? Two heads are better than one, sort of sense of shared presence with something. And sometimes maybe it's just nourishing just to be with another or others, with whom there's some sense of shared endeavor, interest, or value. And I think it's been important for me to realize that it's not just, if you're, Buddhist or a Christian or a Muslim or whatever. We can find it in many, many places with people we don't even know. It's less possible now with the pandemic and all the restrictions, but I find that very interesting how soul nourishing connections, I might say, all sort of thing, connections that uplift the spirit can be surprising. And so to be open to that, whether we see the person directly or maybe we hear about them or hear them on the radio or something. It's like not alone. Others finding value, finding support, inspiration, and that resonating with our own. Another thing that I think I've noticed it comes in whether I want it to or not, is playfulness or kind of creative expression, whether it's just being silly and daft with another person or even on our own, and whether it's more creative expression of poetry or something that we make with our hands, playing, exploring, kind of that I think when it's again, it's like it brings a space for some more lightness, or again the space of exploration, another way for the heart mind, chitta, to express itself. We were so busy going blah blah, talk, say this that, and then it's like maybe sitting down with a pencil or a crayon, or because I can't draw, so that's one of the reasons why that's quite helpful, because it's just something more just expressing. It's like the heart can speak and or you can kind of feel it through on a more kind of embodied or in a more open way. So that's very interesting to me, that different ways that's kind of bubbled up through my life, and hope that can be one really helpful mode of this sort of larger sense of cultivation, a life of really learning more and more to engage with people and activities and meditation in a way where there's more and more the sense of that being like an arena for the cultivation of wholesome qualities, of qualities that bring well-being to ourselves and others. And again, without it having to be, well, maybe some people's minds, you like a program, you've got these and you work through them, and But for me, I think for some minds, it's a sort of more spontaneous, organic. You see it sort of move, and this happens, and then that happens, and more a sense of following, like a sense of being led, being called. So again, depending on how that works for you, but always remembering there may be different modes, different approaches to cultivation. I think can be deeply, deeply playful as well as deeply serious. So yeah, maybe the last thing I'll touch on is the great quality of generosity, which, as an attitude towards ourselves and others, towards the earth, as an attitude, like a generous, forgiving attitude, as a way of offering, giving, sharing. Sometimes it's just the energy of sharing attention, isn't it? Sharing our life energy through cooking, or working at the computer, or we're sharing our energy, serving. So when I look back on my life, I think this is probably a pre-Buddhist life as well. This has been a really central, and it is in the teachings, in the Buddha's teachings, a really central theme of a foundational sense of what brings gladness to the heart and mind. You could say our own and others, and in that way is the basis for all kinds of goodness, and again, that's sort of our own meditative development and path, and also just how much it enriches a social sphere, organizations or families or whatever it might be, where generosity is really active, this health giving to a system. And I feel when generosity is lacking, the system really gets ill. So I find this a very key theme. There's a lot of reflection, and of course, one of the really key parts of it is learning to receive. Receiving generosity for some of us can be really difficult, almost more difficult than giving. So really just something to explore about the sort of, I'm waving my arms around because it feels like a kind of dynamic giving, receiving, sharing, kind of, wise discernment, kind of like this stretching, maybe giving more than we think we can, and then but taking care, not going too far. And it's, again, as always with any Dharma theme, it's an inquiry, and perhaps can really give us a profound sense of belonging in the world, belonging on the earth, through this sort of participation, this participatory dynamic that we can be part of giving, receiving, and sharing. And how exactly that looks as myriad, many, many ways, but a really beautiful, uplifting, and also a theme very productive of wisdom and the sense of interconnection with all life, which is of such benefit to our own well-being, the well-being of others, and the well-being of the earth herself. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for your practice. May these reflections be of benefit to you in your life, in your practice. May these benefits radiate out, reverberate out through your life in many ways, benefiting all those we come into contact with, and far beyond, for the benefit of all beings everywhere. May our practice flourish and deepen for our own benefit, long-lasting welfare and happiness, and the welfare and happiness of all beings everywhere. So I wish you well, bid you farewell, and hope to see you again sometime.